tired of trying. After 13 years together, I left wondering if I've done enough to save my relationship with my partner, who refuses therapy and expects me to juggle everything. Should I keep fighting for love or let go? I believe I have fallen out of love. In fact, I know I have. I have spent so much time trying to keep our relationship alive that I have lost the will to continue, and it is clearly my fault for its current state of failure. I am 31 years old and female, and my partner is 35 years old and male. We have been together for 13 years and have 2 children together. The first 5 years of our relationship were wonderful, but I was the one who exerted all the effort while he simply enjoyed the experience. I acknowledge that was my initial mistake, as it set the standard for our relationship. 6 years in, we had our first child, and he became increasingly grumpy. He has always been somewhat irritable and had a short temper, but I respected that and allowed him space. However, he grew angrier and more distant, developed a desire to smoke cannabis, refused to engage in family activities, and began making our child and me feel like burdens. I continuously attempted to improve our relationship, but to no avail. When our child was 4, I ultimately issued him an ultimatum. He needed to open up and give us a chance to repair our relationship, or our relationship would stagnate. He explained that due to his traumatic childhood, he was experiencing severe depression and suicidal thoughts, and that his job was exacerbating the situation, causing him to take his frustrations out on the family. I urged him to seek help from a doctor, but he did not. After another week of the same behavior, I submitted a virtual request to his doctor for a phone consultation and a medical leave note. I informed him, and he agreed to be candid with the doctor and take time off. He began taking antidepressants but refused therapy, and we moved forward from there. After approximately 2 months off work, he expressed that the looming return to that workplace made him feel suicidal and that he believed he would never succeed. I told him I would financially support him and our family, and I would pay for him to retrain, which is what we did. However, his behavior did not improve, and he remained somewhat absent around the house, so I was responsible for taking care of our child while working a full-time job at the hospital and an additional 25 hours of evening work from home, as well as managing household chores and childcare. This situation persisted for 2 years, and eventually, I stated that I could no longer endure it. I was trying so hard to ensure his happiness that I was sacrificing my own well-being. I requested that he apply for jobs, but he did not, so I rewrote his curriculum vitae and applied for jobs on his behalf. After approximately 3 months, he received a temporary job offer, proposed to me, and then we discovered that we were expecting another child. It was a difficult pregnancy, and the baby had severe health complications. This was an incredibly challenging period for us, as we had weekly medical appointments, and I was still working 60-hour weeks while handling everything for our family, despite requesting that he take a more active role. The baby was born, and we spent 4 months in the hospital with him. My partner quit his temporary job due to the stress, leaving us with only my maternity pay. When our baby turned 6 months old, I mentioned that my pay would not last much longer and that I needed him to start searching for employment. Once again, he did not. I eventually applied for roles that I thought would be worthwhile for him mentally. He secured a position that required him to work away during the week. At this point, I have come to realize that my life would be easier without him. I do not feel that he enriches my life. In fact, I feel like I am his mother. He begins to nag me about our lack of sexual intimacy, but I explain that I do not feel as if we are in a relationship. I am the one sustaining the family, and I have recently endured a traumatic pregnancy and birth. We now have a high-needs medical baby, so the last thing I want is to be intimate. He feels emasculated by this, and he tells me that since he has had a job for a few months, I should be over it. However, I am not. I feel emotionally disconnected. I cannot seem to re-engage that aspect of myself. I have suggested therapy, but he has firmly rejected that idea. He claims he is trying now, but his efforts are lackluster and half-hearted. For instance, today I cleaned the entire house, took care of the baby, prepared dinner, and asked him to put away the toys while I put the baby to bed. But when I returned downstairs, nothing had been accomplished, yet he expects me to be intimate. Intimacy is not transactional, but surely he must understand that to be desirable, he cannot behave like a child. I am uncertain about my next steps, yet he has not done anything I consider a valid reason to end our relationship. He is not a bad person. He is not unkind to me. He simply inhabits my life. Additionally, we are not in a financial position that allows him to easily move out, which leaves me feeling burdened by the uncertainty of what comes next. I apologize for this lengthy message, but I long to feel loved, and I desire to have my life enriched by someone else's presence. I do not want to be the only one enhancing someone else's life. If I decide to end things, how do I even approach that? What should I say? And how can I do so without feeling like I am the worst person in the world? To summarize, I feel that I have provided my male partner with financial, emotional, and physical support for 13 years without receiving much in return. I have attempted to communicate, yet I feel stagnant after 2 children and all this time. I am uncertain about what I should do since I have given up all hope and effort I previously put forth. I am unable to find any happiness or positive feelings toward him. Should I continue trying, or should I leave? What is the threshold for determining that I have done enough and it is not my fault? I want to thank everyone for their comments. I suppose it confirms what I already knew. I will have a conversation with him when he comes home from work next weekend and take it from there. Story 2. IF22. Am rethinking my relationship of 5 years with M22 because I cannot stop thinking of my ex. I feel like the worst person and am trying not to dwell on it too much because I just end up crying, but that does not help at all. I am just going to start from the beginning. This was when I was 16 years old. I was hormonal, angsty, and really into self-harming myself. Through a mutual friend, I met the first love of my life. I will refer to him as P. P had a severe problem with cutting, and I realized that it is no excuse, but surrounding myself with that only increased my own self-harm. However, I loved him so much. I could sense why he was distancing himself, even before it happened. I never gave him space, as I always wanted to be near him. I do not believe I should blame myself, though, as my home was filled with trauma abuse, both verbal and physical, and starvation. There was truly nowhere that felt safe. It is difficult for me to express this nicely, even though I know it is not a pleasant topic. One of P.T.'s close friends went missing 1 month, and was found much later lying in the middle of the highway in a pitch-black area during the night. He did not survive. This is where I feel I could blame myself. I do not remember much about what was happening during that time, as it was so long ago. However, I recall that he shut down. He was not behaving normally. I knew he needed me, but I did not know how to help him when I was struggling myself. I understand that I can be very hard to please at times. I do not know why, but everyone seems to get on my nerves, and I end up thinking that I have upset them, which leads me to lash out, leave, and make them resent me. Honestly, I thought he might reach out to me, trying to get back together. However, I think I ruined that by texting this random guy a lot, whom I will call D. That is no excuse, and I can understand why he does not make an effort to contact me. Nonetheless, it does hurt, and I still wonder whether he thinks about me too. Definitely not, because you know that random guy D. Yes, he was very willing to travel long distances to be with me. I am literally pathetic. Therefore, I attempted to forget about P by using the marijuana that D.T.'s mother obtained from the dispensary, because what is better than being a cheater? A minor who uses drugs. That should have served as a red flag to me. D.T.'s mother is quite unstable. Who provides that for kids, especially at such a young age? But now I have a weed addiction, and that is my responsibility. She also uses heroin, or at least that is what I suspect. We took a road trip the following summer, and she was using it in the backseat. He did not believe me when I told him what she was doing, even when he heard the sound of her little torch clicking and witnessed her using it. I do not know what is wrong with me. D.T.'s father passed away, and I kept thinking I could not behave as I used to. Then D attempted to break up with me for the first time. Yes, for the first time. The second time, he took all my belongings that I had left at his house and waited until I thought he was coming to pick me up to talk to me. The third time, after the fact, I discovered he had texted his ex and apologized, which made me feel even stranger about him. Fast forward to now, I have been considering breaking things off, but I cannot bring myself to do it. Yes, I do love him. However, I tell him what I would like him to do intimately, and it is never the same as it was with P. I hate admitting that to myself. D has also become quite aggressive, like making holes in the wall or trying to force his way into the bathroom while I am holding the door shut. Perhaps I have noticed it more now that I have started taking a lot more medication for anxiety and depression. Maybe I am just more sensitive. I do not know, but I try not to dwell on it too much. The one thing I can say is that it has dramatically changed how I feel about him. I am not attracted to him anymore. He kisses my neck, and I just wish it was P. I am really being a creep, though, because I stalked my ex on the last Instagram account I knew of, and I found out he has a Twitch account. I have also been streaming, but I started that before I learned he did. Nonetheless, I have been watching him, and I think I need someone to tell me to stop. I cannot discuss this with anyone because I do not have any friends. My mother insists I should absolutely not reach out to him. However, she has told me she wanted a divorce from my father since before I learned how to divide, so I do not really trust her relationship advice. I know I cannot be a creep and pretend I do not know him. My heart literally aches when I hear him laugh, but it brings me joy to see him happy. Additionally, this is embarrassing, but the one time I progressed to second base with my girlfriend during my teenage years, she apparently gave me chlamydia, which honestly was not surprising because she has a lot of sexual partners. Immediately after finding out about it, like 2 years ago, I wanted to inform D. But foolishly, I asked P whether I should reach out and let D know because I would be upset if I were in his position. P said no and acted as though I was crazy. I feel stuck in my thoughts right now and need some advice. I have also lived with D for a few years now, and it feels as though if I do not handle certain things, such as the laundry, it will never get done. Even when I communicate that I am experiencing a depressive episode and find it difficult to leave my bed, it just feels like endless housework. One time, I went to my coworker's house, and he showed up because I did not answer the phone. He tracked my location via Snapchat and knocked on every door on each floor, claiming to have deduced which apartment my coworker lived in. Afterward, he went to his mother's house and told everyone how horrible I was, which does not help because they already do not like me. I feel like part of my racial background plays a role in that, but whatever. Now, whenever he does not visit his friends, he receives nasty texts claiming that I am the reason he cannot hang out with them, etc. I have blocked his mother and sister for a whole other set of issues, to be honest. I do not know what to do. What would you do if you were in my situation? I will also answer any questions to provide a clearer picture. I apologize for being unable to summarize this in a brief format. Story 3. Stuck in a 6-year engagement with a partner who struggles to help around the house, I feel more like a caretaker than a fiancé. Is there hope for change, or am I facing a lifetime of loneliness and disappointment? I am seeking advice from someone who has experienced a similar relationship situation. Summary: I, 28 female, have been engaged to my fiancé, 28 male, for 6 years. I have been pleading for change for a long time, as I am weary and resentful of my role as a caretaker. I am uncertain whether his mental health issues are the root cause, which gives me hope for the future if he improves, or if I am destined to remain in this situation indefinitely. I am looking for guidance from individuals who have faced similar circumstances. Thank you. I feel quite lost and isolated in my relationship and would appreciate an outside perspective. My fiancé and I are in our late 20s, have been together for 6 years, and share custody of cats. This is my first and only relationship, so I did not have much to compare it to initially. However, after years of personal growth and reflection, I have come to realize that I am profoundly unhappy with the imbalance in our partnership. The most significant disparities in our relationship pertain to household responsibilities, emotional closeness, and physical intimacy. Although I love him, I feel as though I am bearing the entire burden of our shared life, and that has started to breed resentment. He was raised in a conservative household where women were expected to take care of all domestic tasks. When we first met, he had just moved out on his own. Consequently, I have had to instruct him on how to manage a home, and even after 6 years, I am still the one who ensures everything functions smoothly. Even when I assign him tasks, he often forgets them or completes them so poorly that it feels deliberate. For instance, I assigned him the responsibility of paying rent and bills, but we have fallen behind because he forgets to do it. He is tasked with refilling the cat's water bowls, yet days can pass with empty bowls before he notices. If I am ill or unavailable, the household simply deteriorates. He is self-aware, but that does not seem to affect any change. Financially, the situation is equally frustrating. In the beginning, we split everything evenly. However, after I began working from home and took on more household responsibilities, we adjusted our arrangement. Still, he remained inflexible. Whenever I needed him to cover for me, he expected reimbursement later. I have always wished to share our finances more collaboratively, but he declines, as his parents maintain separate finances. During a period of unemployment last year, I assumed 95% of the household chores while still finding time for side jobs to earn money. Instead of being supportive, he continuously lamented his own stress and pressured me to find a job immediately. It did not feel like we were functioning as a team. It felt as though I was merely an obligation to him. Our sexual relationship has consistently been problematic. He faced difficulties in that area from the very beginning, and I encouraged him to consult a doctor. He claimed he did, but nothing improved. His sexual desire is exceedingly low, and when I try to initiate intimacy, he either physically pushes me away or complains about my efforts. I have attempted to communicate my preferences, introduce new ideas, and practice patience. However, he consistently shuts me down. Now, after years of rejection, I feel entirely unwanted and undesirable. When I express my feelings of sadness, he accuses me of manipulating him into sex, which only exacerbates my distress. Emotionally, I also feel neglected. I must always initiate significant conversations, and he never makes me feel special. I have explicitly communicated my needs, especially for events like birthdays, but he consistently falls short. After years of disappointment, I finally told him precisely what I wanted. A card, a gift, and decorations, which I even purchased in advance and showed him where they were stored. While I was thrilled to receive a present this year, he ignored everything else and spent the day in a poor mood. In contrast, I go all out for his birthday, yet he refuses to reciprocate because he does not understand the significance. Even small gestures are absent from our relationship: no surprises, no flowers, no sweet notes, and nothing spontaneous. When I started a new job, he did not cook dinner for me, buy me a small gift, or even acknowledge my achievement. I feel as though I am begging for love, and I am exhausted. He struggles with mental health issues and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And though I have always supported him, I am beginning to resent my role as caretaker. I have worked diligently to manage my own mental health, attending therapy, taking medication, and making genuine efforts for my own well-being and for those around me. Meanwhile, I have been encouraging him to seek therapy for years, but there is always an excuse to avoid it. His mental health is deteriorating, yet he refuses to seek help, leaving me to deal with the consequences. I have already decided to suspend our wedding indefinitely, but I have not yet figured out how to communicate this to him. The most challenging aspect is that I do not want this relationship to end. However, I no longer see the value in keeping him in my life. He is my best friend, and I genuinely enjoy spending time with him. The issue is that it feels more like we are friends and roommates than partners. For those who have been in similar situations, does this gap ever close? Has anyone successfully encouraged their partner to step up and meet them halfway? Or is this division of labor and intimacy typical in most heterosexual relationships? I need to know if I am fighting for something that has the potential to change, or if I am merely setting myself up for a lifetime of disappointment. I love him dearly, but at this moment, I can barely tolerate being in the same room with him when we are both at home, as I am overwhelmed with sadness and anger, accompanied by physical pain in my chest. Story 4. I had to kick my longtime friend out after years of codependent living. He seemed better after the split, but I felt uneasy about his new situation. As I warned him about the people taking him away, I couldn't shake the fear. Did I do the right thing? One of my oldest friends and I share a deeply codependent and unhealthy relationship, and I am fully aware of this. For years, he has held me responsible for his well-being, placing me in terrible situations without any remorse. We both experienced difficult childhoods. I chose to heal while he chose to numb himself, even if it harms the people he loves. That said, I still love him, and I always will. He feels almost like a brother to me, except we are comfortable discussing sex and topics that one would typically not share with a sibling. He was evicted, and he and his cats began staying with me for free. I offered this assistance knowing it would be a complicated process. However, I did not expect that he would continue to act childishly while lashing out at me and treating me as if I were the cause of all his problems. His cats damaged my belongings and even attacked my cat once. I could no longer sleep, as his cats kept me awake while he slept soundly. I established boundaries that he repeatedly ignored. Eventually, everything reached a tipping point, and I told him that I loved him, but he needed to leave. I had worked too hard to reach my current state, and I could not jeopardize myself or my loved ones who were directly affected. He requested to stay for about a month. Something shifted during that time. He appeared to realize his behavior was unacceptable, and he became apologetic. His sincerity was evident. He had finally awakened. He shared that an experience he had made everything click for him, and he recognized that he had been in a fog for the last few years. It went much deeper than that. He had been dissociating due to trauma. I do not feel comfortable sharing all the details, as it is his story. He genuinely began treating me better, being more mindful of how his presence affected me, and he offered sincere apologies for the first time in ages. He never once asked to extend his stay and even suggested that if I needed him to crash elsewhere occasionally, he could ask around. Part of me suspects he was merely trying to keep the peace, but he exceeded my expectations, knowing that I would tolerate less. He is still somewhat careless, but I believe he is genuinely trying to improve. Today, he left with his cats. He is staying with some friends who are financially more stable. They came to pick him up and transport him to a location very far from where I am. I have no means of retrieving him if things go awry. I have no money, and I cannot drive yet. The individuals who arrived to take him gave me a terrible feeling in my stomach. I have a strong intuition about people, shaped by my upbringing. I do not make a fuss over trivial matters. I know when to remain quiet or convince myself that it is probably nothing. It was a couple, one of whom is a veterinary technician. The first individual, the veterinary technician, administered the same dosage to both cats, despite their significant size differences. I possess considerable knowledge about cats, given my experience with a chronically ill cat and previous cat fostering. A sedative is not something to be administered carelessly, especially to underweight cats. They were also clumsy in handling the cats, and I understand that some veterinarians need to be firm for both their safety and that of the cat. However, when it came to grabbing the cats by their scruff, they were pulling in ways that could have injured them and encouraging us to do the same. After they left, the other individual approached. The second individual, Jay, did not assist much with the cats. However, they were carrying items and appeared reasonably fatigued. If they were not up to the task, I preferred they did not do much because the cat's safety should be the priority. We managed to get both cats into the carriers, but the more anxious cat was screaming and thrashing around. He was extremely distressed, and this person laughed. Not just chuckled, but each time my roommate left the room, they would say things like, "You can be angry all you want, but I am bigger than you. You will not win this fight," recording the cat at times and grinning from ear to ear. It felt sadistic. After this, I did not have a moment alone with my friend or roommate before he departed. He also disclosed to them the exact amount of money he had left, which he was carrying with him. A very risky thing to do, especially considering he does not know these people well. I waited a few hours, thinking perhaps this uneasy feeling was simply my difficulty adjusting to the change or the fact that I hadn't been sleeping well. It is not that I had not slept during the months he stayed here. It was just inconsistent. However, when I verbalized my concerns to my mother, I realized my feelings did not seem irrational at all. These people unsettled me, despite my having encountered many frightening individuals without fear in the past. This lack of fear comes from being acutely aware of such matters. I have strong pattern recognition skills and have witnessed numerous troubling situations. My friend is very naively trusting, and I have observed this behavior lead him into trouble many times, as he believes the best outcome will occur simply because it must. He fails to prepare for possibilities that are worse than the best outcome. I sent him a text saying, "Read this alone," and then followed up with the rest in invisible ink, explaining my observations without sounding paranoid, as he typically responds with, No, they are nice. You are just being pessimistic. Then, months later, he reveals that whoever he reassured me about has done something truly deceitful to him. I worry he may not believe me, but I felt compelled to convey this for my own peace of mind. I sincerely hope I am mistaken. I am just concerned, and my therapist advises that I must allow him to ruin his own life if that is what he desires. But it is challenging to let go of someone I have loved like family for 10 years, especially when I do not have much family to begin with. Story 5. My husband is frustrated because I can't let something go, and he's right. I can't move on. I am a Reddit lurker and a fan of Am I the Asshole? Posts, and this is my first time posting. I am simply seeking some advice. I am a 44-year-old female, married to my 47-year-old husband. We have been together for 23 years. My husband frequently tells me that I cannot let anything go. Well, something occurred that I cannot move past. It has been a few months, yet it continues to occupy my mind. I can be somewhat forgetful and tend to misplace things. I have made efforts to designate specific places for important items to avoid this. We have 7 children together, and sometimes our home feels a bit chaotic, which compounds my difficulties. Over the last 4 years, the item I have lost most often is my check card. You know when you receive a prescription refill and they place it in an envelope stapled to the bag. I have accidentally forgotten to retrieve my check card from that envelope before discarding the bag. This has happened 3 times, and on 2 occasions, I did not realize it until it was too late. It is frustrating because I need to obtain a new card, and it feels embarrassing as an adult that I should be more responsible. Several months ago, I was at a gas station when I noticed my check card was missing. Fortunately, I had another card for emergencies and used that. When I returned home, I searched for my card but could not locate it anywhere. Sometimes I remove it from my wallet when making an online purchase, but I could not recall doing that recently. I was incredibly frustrated because I thought I had been managing this card well. I really did not want to request a new one. After a week, I finally informed my husband that it was missing. He suggested I deactivate the card, and I did, but there was absolutely no activity on it. After a few days, I admitted defeat and requested a replacement card. A couple of weeks passed, and everything seemed to return to normal. I ended up cracking a nail and could not find any nail clippers, but remembered that my husband had a pair in the top drawer of his nightstand. When I opened the drawer, I discovered not only the nail clippers, but also my check card. The sight of it completely shocked me. He had entered the room, and I mentioned finding the nail clippers but did not mention the check card initially. I felt guilty for not asking before rummaging through his drawer. After about 5 minutes, I had to tell him I found my check card and was confused about how it ended up in his drawer. He said that our son, who is 6 years old, must have placed it there. I accepted this explanation, but was still perplexed about its location. The issue was that his explanation did not seem plausible. He dislikes when the children take his items, yet he did not appear upset at all. This typically would have angered him. The following day, I decided to test our son by accidentally dropping my check card near him. He saw the card on the floor and immediately handed it to me. I realized that his explanation did not make sense, so I asked my husband again about it. This time, he seemed irritated by my inquiries. He responded that I keep bringing up the issue and did not remember how it ended up there, adding that he probably found it after I had already canceled it. Then he said, "What do you think? I took it so you would stop spending my money. Why would I leave you stranded somewhere without the ability to pay?" I explained that I simply wanted to know where it was because I had no idea how it got lost in the first place. He then speculated that maybe he found it on the stairs, placed it in the drawer, and just forgot about it. The problem is that his explanation still did not add up. Why did he not place my check card somewhere where I could easily find it or back in my wallet? Why did he not inform me about it immediately? When I told him my card was missing, why did he not tell me he had found it? I had waited several days after requesting him to cancel it, so why did he not return it to me right away? If he found it on the stairs, I would have likely seen it, so it does not add up that it was missing for a week only to reappear there. It feels like a mystery, and I feel as though I am not receiving the full story. I waited several days but could not let it go, so I asked him again. He became instantly angry about it. Why could I not just move on? The problem is that each time I ask him, I cannot obtain a straightforward answer. I explained this to him, and he claimed he found my card when he got off work. Since he works nights, this was around 5 a.m., placed it in his nightstand drawer, and forgot about it until I discovered it. Then we dropped the subject. He thinks it is resolved, but I still suspect that is not the full story. I cannot bring it up again, because I know it will only lead to a fight for which I will be blamed. It has been a while, so my inability to move on is my own issue. Should I let this go? I genuinely want to understand what truly happened.